it's really aimed at readers who want a little bit more from their device. So readers who want to be able to read magazines and newspapers, color content such as comics and fixed layout books, as well as to be able to consume music and movies and browse the web. So it's a much more broadly focused device than our other readers are, than our other devices are. From a hardware and from just the competitive perspective, this is a very competitive tablet. It's based on a TI OMAP 4470 running 1.5 gigahertz dual core. It's a HD screen running at 1280 by 800. We have front-facing stereo speakers with integrated SRS technology, so it's a very, very competitive piece of hardware. But where this tablet stands out is really more about the design, from both the industrial design and the way it looks, as well as the software experience that we've packaged it, that we have designed for it. So to start with what you can see right now, we've put a lot of effort into making this into something that you're proud to own, to make it stand out from the rest of the Android tablets, which are sort of generic pieces of glass. This is a very interesting looking device. It's something that we want people to be, to feel comfortable in your hand, as well as people to feel proud when it sits on their coffee table. So that focus on design and that focus on the user was at the heart of what drove our design thinking when it came to the software. So when we started this project at the beginning of the year, we talked to all our users and asked them what was their interest in tablets, what do they use their tablets for. And when they spoke to us about that, they came back with 5 key things. They said they wanted to read their books, watch their movies, listen to music, look at their pictures, and browse the web, and email as well. But those 5 key focuses are emphasize very much their own content. So users are very focused on their content when using tablets. But when we looked around at the world of tablets, both Android and iOS, we realized that the experiences are very much focused on apps. So when you go into your iPhone, you go into your iPad or any Android tablet, the home screens are all about apps. And what that does is it puts the user one step away from the content that they're truly interested in. And it also forces users to silo their content based on those apps. So all of their movies are now in one place, all of their music is in another place, all of their books are in another place. So they aren't able to organize and curate their content in the flexible ways that make sense to them. So for example, if you go on a vacation, you have books that you bring with you, you have music that is relevant, you have movies that you bring for the kids in the back of the car. All of this stuff is relevant to your vacation, but in traditional tablet experiences, it gets dispersed across the device and buried in the apps that support them. So we set out to sort of solve and address that issue. And we did so by, and what we came up with is this software experience called Tapestries. Now, so I'll show you what the home screen looks like. So it looks very different from a traditional Android experience. But that said, it's important to note that this is a fully Google certified device, which means it has full access to the Android Google Play Store. All 600,000 apps are available, and the full Google service layer is available as well. So if you click here, you can see you have a traditional Android experience, all the traditional navigation of Android at the bottom. But what we've done is improve the home screen experience with what we call Tapestries. And so the idea of the Tapestries is that you have this long visual wall of content. And on this wall, you're able to pin the content that you're interested in. So as you're browsing the web, as you're reading your books, your magazines, as you're watching your movies, you're able to pin that content to your Tapestries in a visual way and then organize it in ways that make sense to you. So out of the box, we provide a couple of tapestries to sort of get you started with organization. We have a tapestry about reading and a tapestry about entertainment, a tapestry about social and about browsing. But you can see I've also created some new custom tapestries for myself around my interest in cooking, around some movies that I think I might want to watch, as well as some music that I like. So it's a very powerful way of not only keeping track of your content, but organizing it in ways that make sense to you. So because Kobo is primarily at heart, we're a reading company, we'll take a look first of all at the reading tapestry. And the reading tapestry does start to give you a very clear idea of how this concept works. So on the reading tapestry, you can see I have content from the Kobo library, the books that I'm reading from the Kobo library. But I also have magazines from Zinio, and I have newspapers from Press Reader. All of this sits next to, say, a book that I have pinned directly. I'm reading the Steve Jobs book.
You really pinned that book?
Pardon me?
You really pinned that book?
I pinned the book directly. I'll happy to show you afterwards.
Especially this one.
Well, I'm actually reading it.
You're not reading it. You will never read it.
But I was reading it last night.
Oh, okay.
As well as some web pages that are relevant to my interest in reading. So I have Goodreads, DC Comics, and some articles that I'm reading. So all of my content that's focused on my reading activities are available here in the reading tapestry.
Pardon, ce qu'on retrouve bien, c'est la complémentarité. Si j'ai acheté des livres sur sur une liseuse, par exemple, je vais évidemment les retrouver là, et en plus avec tous les contenus supplémentaires qui viennent d'être décrits. Donc c'est vraiment, j'ai retrouvé mon environnement Kobo Fnac. Sorry.
Okay. So just quickly, as I said at the beginning, one of the focuses of this tablet is for readers who want a little bit more. And so the kind of reading content that can be consumed on this tablet is a little bit broader than on the rest of our devices. So, for example, we have comics. This one is a black and white comic. We actually have color comics, which is this one. So we have color comics in fixed layout. You can pinch and zoom and read your comics. We have some art books we have a number of art books. So you can see the way in which this tablet can support different kinds of reading. We're not just limited to books though. As I was saying earlier, there are magazines. There are magazines available as well, and newspapers. But we've also extended the notion of reading on a tablet beyond these, beyond magazines and newspapers and books, and extended it out into the web. So if I go over to the browsing tapestry, on the browsing tapestry we pre-pin a few websites that might be of interest. And so I can go to this news site. Just wait for it to load. And so traditionally on the web, articles aren't really laid out in a way that is ideal for reading. It's very much a sort of a distraction. Reading on the web is traditionally very distracting. There are ads, and the formatting of the text is rarely ideal. So ads everywhere. Sorry. So what we were able to do is take an article like this and create a curated, distraction-free reading experience, which is really very much our expertise. And so you can see that web article is now formatted with nice margins, using fonts that have been specifically tuned for this device. So we are bringing to the web Kobo's expertise in terms of curated reading experience, nicely formatted margins, the fonts, the features that you'd expect, such as night reading or different font sizes. And from here, we can start to pin content. So I can choose to pin this content to a tapestry, and I'm going to pin it to my reading tapestry. And then when I go back out to my reading tapestry, you'll see that content, that article that I was reading is now here and available on my reading tapestry with the rest of my reading interests. And it behaves as a visual bookmark back to that article that I was reading on the web. So you can see all of the different content in the reading tapestry focused on my interests in reading. But the device itself isn't just about reading. It's also about consuming other kinds of content. And so let me show you how something like video works. I created this movie tapestries, and I pinned from the YouTube app a bunch of different movie trailers that I'm interested in. And you can see how I'm able to organize and curate this my interests on this tapestry. I can lay them out, I can sort of move them around and resize them, so I can make this a very personalized experience to my interests. I can tap on one of these trailers, and we can see how the device supports HD. Sorry, it's YouTube, so it's ads. But you can see how it supports an HD movie experience, and you can also see how well it supports audio. I mean, we're in a big, loud room here, but the sound is very clear, and it's very easy for even us in this loud room to go. Let's see if I can actually get to...
I have a question.
Sure.
When it's pinned, whether it's an article or a video, can you access it without a connection, or?
So no. So think of the pins as bookmarks.
Bookmarks. So it doesn't download the article.
It does not download. One sec. It's too loud. On our roadmap is the ability for offline reading.
Okay.
At launch, think of it as an online bookmark.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So you can see how it supports video. Other things like music can be similarly treated. So here from my music app, I have which I personally use audio, but it would be the same for other music apps. I've pinned a couple of albums and some songs. And so I can curate my interest in music based on in this tapestry, and I could combine, for example, if I had an interest in a particular band, I could pin their albums alongside their websites, alongside articles or YouTube videos that I find of their concerts. So I can curate the content that I consume around my interest in a particular band using this in this experience called tapestries. One thing that I haven't talked about yet is this bar along the bottom, and it's really the third part of this whole experience. So tapestries has been about, what I've talked about so far has been about redefining how people consume and organize or curate their content. The last part is how do people discover new content. And so that's what this bar along the bottom tries to do. It tries to redefine how people can find content. So instead of you having to search for things that you may or may not know you're interested in, what Discover does is try to bring new content to you based on your interests. So based on the things that you are pinning on a tapestry, Discover will go out and try and find new content for you to consume. And importantly, it's not just about recommending books to you or recommending songs or new albums for you to buy. It's about finding new and interesting content of all kinds, whether it be a YouTube video or a web article that you might be of interest in. So, for example, I have Johnny Cash pinned, a Johnny Cash album pinned here, and you can see that what Discover has done is gone out and it's found actually an article about June and Johnny Cash. So right from here, I can decide to view the web page online and go and read that web page. I could pin that article to my tapestry if I find it interesting, or I could say I'm not interested, and it will drop out of Discover, and Discover will go and find me new content and start to tailor how it recommends content to me based on what I say I'm interested or not interested in.
Is it also about discovering e-commerce websites affiliated to Kobo?
So primarily, it's about helping the user find new content based on their interests. If their interests align with a book recommendation or a
purchase.
Pardon me?
A purchase.
A purchase, yes. If it aligns to a book that we can recommend to you, then we will happily recommend it to you and you can purchase it. But more importantly, it's really about finding, obviously these websites are not for pay.
And they're not affiliates.
And they are not affiliated with Kobo. But if I go out to my reading tapestry, that wasn't a reading tapestry.
To make it clear, can we see Rakuten on the baseline or of the
So
baseline?
Rakuten content or buy.com is not explicitly integrated down there. If the algorithm that we use happens to find something that's relevant to you from Kobo or from one of our affiliates, it will find it and recommend it. But that's not the goal of Discover. The goal of Discover is to bring in new content.
And if I buy my Kobo at Fnac, will it be with Fnac.com in the Discover baseline?
Not explicitly.
Okay.
It's again, I mean, I would.
It depends on the algorithm.
It depends on your interests. So